First comes love, then comes marriage, then comes the baby in the baby carriage. At least that's what most would-be parents are hoping for. Sadly, it's not always as easy to get pregnant as a couple might expect, and some hopeful parents need a little help making their family dreams come true. When fertility treatments aren't enough, some aspiring parents turn to surrogacy to expand their family. So how does baby surrogacy actually work? It's more complicated than you might expect. There are many reasons that someone might not be able to have children of their own. Some medical issues can make pregnancy extremely risky for the mother, or there could be struggles with fertility for women and men. Or the prospective mother might be too old to have children naturally. In some cases, the prospective parents are a same-sex couple who need a surrogate to help them become biological parents. And for others, it's simply a personal choice not to carry their baby themselves. Many celebrities have used a surrogate to add to their family. Tyra Banks and her boyfriend Eric Oslo welcomed a baby boy named York to their family in 2016 via a gestational surrogate. Grey's Anatomy star Ellen Pompeo's second child was delivered by a surrogate in 2014. Neil Patrick Harris and his husband David Bartka welcomed their twins in 2010. They inserted 2 eggs into their surrogate's uterus, one inseminated with each of their sperm. In any of these cases, a surrogate can be the answer to the aspiring parent's dreams. A surrogate is a woman who carries and delivers a baby for aspiring parents who are unable or unwilling to have children of their own. While surrogacy seems pretty straightforward, it can raise a lot of questions like, is the baby related to the surrogate? Or who are the real parents? The answers to these questions depend on what type of surrogacy is used. There are 2 types of surrogacy available for prospective parents: traditional surrogacy and gestational surrogacy. In both cases, the surrogate carries and delivers the baby for the intended parents, but there are major differences between the 2 types. In traditional surrogacy, the surrogate provides both the womb and the egg, and is artificially inseminated with the sperm from the prospective father or a donor. In cases of traditional surrogacy, the baby will be related to the surrogate as the egg, and therefore half of the genetic material came from the surrogate parent. In gestational surrogacy, the baby that the surrogate will carry is not related to her. The embryo is created with the eggs and sperm of the parents or donors and implanted in the surrogate. About 750 babies are born via gestational surrogacy in the US each year. As for the question of who the real parents are, traditional surrogacy can complicate things since the baby shares DNA with the surrogate, and for that reason it's the far less common option for aspiring parents looking to have a child through a surrogate. In gestational surrogacy, the surrogate is the birth mother, but the biological mother is the woman whose egg was used. In either case, as long as everything is done properly, the intended parents are the real parents, whether or not they share DNA with the baby, just like in the case of adoption. Gestational surrogacy might seem pretty straightforward, but it's actually quite a complicated and expensive process. Once the couple has decided that gestational surrogacy is right for them, the first step is to find a surrogate willing to carry and deliver the baby. For Jen and Brad Nixon, this step was one of the easiest parts of the process. After 2 years of trying unsuccessfully for a baby, the couple finally became pregnant with the help of fertility treatments, but sadly they lost the pregnancy at 16 weeks, and Jen discovered that she had a heart condition that would make pregnancy unsafe for her and her baby. They were incredibly fortunate to have a close friend who volunteered to be their surrogate and agreed to carry the baby for free. Even though they did not have to compensate their surrogate, the cost of the medical bills and legal fees added up quickly. In the end, it still cost them nearly $35,000 to have a baby through surrogacy, but the couple were happy to pay the price if it meant finally having a family of their own. It's not always so easy to find a friend or family member willing to act as a surrogate. Being a surrogate is a huge commitment. The person has to be willing to undergo pregnancy and delivery, understand the impact of giving up the baby after birth, and work closely with the couple for a year or more. Thankfully, there are agencies that will help match aspiring parents with willing surrogates and help with every step of the process. There are around 100 of these agencies in the US, and working with an agency gives prospective parents access to willing surrogates who have usually passed the agency's rigorous evaluations. There are currently no regulations for who can be a surrogate, but most agencies require surrogates to be over 21 years old, to already have had at least one healthy baby, and to have passed psychological screening and medical evaluations, including STD screening and immunization tests. Jessica and Ryan Benson had tried unsuccessfully for years to have a child of their own before their doctor recommended gestational surrogacy. Not knowing anyone personally who could act as their surrogate, they turned to a local agency for help. They met with a case manager who helped them create their surrogacy plan and had them complete a lengthy questionnaire detailing their preferences for a surrogate, everything from the surrogate's sexual orientation and personality to her preferred level of contact throughout and after the process, as well as helped them complete their own profile to show to prospective surrogates. Their case manager then showed them 4 profiles of potential surrogates who matched their criteria, and after meeting with the one they liked the best, the 3 agreed to work together, and Jessica and Ryan finally began their journey to parenthood. Choosing a surrogate was just the beginning of the process for the Bensons, though. Once they had found someone they liked who was willing to carry their baby and they had ensured she was medically and psychologically fit for the pregnancy, there were still mountains of legal paperwork to complete before they could begin their surrogacy journey. Both the Bensons and their surrogate each had to get their own lawyers to help them finalize the surrogacy contract, and the Bensons had to pay for all of the legal costs. The surrogacy contract covers everything from how the parties would deal with any complications to how the surrogate would be compensated for her service. The contract also outlined the plan for establishing the Bensons as the legal parents of the baby, a process that usually starts once the pregnancy has reached the 2nd trimester. Establishing legal parenthood is usually less complicated in gestational surrogacy than traditional surrogacy, since the baby's not related to the surrogate, but it's far from simple and parental rights are by no means guaranteed. There are no federal laws governing surrogacy in the US, and the rules vary wildly from state to state and are constantly changing as more and more people turn to surrogacy. In some states, prospective parents are required to legally adopt the baby after birth, while others allow the parents to state their intention to take over legal guardianship before the baby's born. Gestational surrogacy is currently only legal in 10 U.S. states, and although it's practiced in many others, there are many legal hurdles and potential issues to be aware of. In many states, the surrogate has the right to choose to keep the baby at any point throughout the process, and some states even require that the prospective parents need to be legally married and heterosexual to even be allowed to use a surrogate. Needless to say, lawyers and surrogacy agencies highly recommend holding off until the contracts are finalized and signed by both sides before taking the steps to get pregnant. Once the legal hurdles have been finally cleared, the next step is fertilization. For the Bensons, this meant a trip to the fertility clinic for all 3 of them. After taking medications to help develop her eggs, Jessica underwent an egg retrieval procedure. Jessica's egg was then fertilized with Ryan's sperm in the lab to create an embryo that would be implanted in their surrogate's uterus. The Bensons were able to use their own egg and sperm, but that's not always the case. Some prospective parents use donor eggs or sperm to make the embryo that'll become their baby, either because they have to or because they choose to. The Benson surrogate also has to take fertility medications leading up to the procedure to increase the chances of a successful implantation. The procedure was relatively quick and painless, and a few weeks later they returned to the clinic to find out if the implantation was successful. Luckily for the Bensons, the procedure was a success on the first try, and 6 weeks later they were finally able to hear their baby's heartbeat for the first time. Once the pregnancy was confirmed, the Benson surrogate received the first of her regular compensation payments that she'd received throughout the pregnancy. This was just one of the many costs related to the surrogacy process. The Bensons were also on the hook for all medical costs, including fertility treatments and prenatal checkups, labor and delivery costs, as well as their own and the surrogate's legal fees. They also had to cover travel expenses for themselves and the surrogate, since they had traveled to another state with more favorable laws to have the procedure. They even had to take care of the cost of the surrogate's food during the pregnancy and pay for her maternity clothes. In all, it can cost anywhere from $100,000 to $150,000 or more to have a baby via surrogate, but most prospective parents would tell you that it's well worth the cost. Some insurance companies offer special policies that cover the costs of surrogacy, but the premiums alone can cost tens of thousands of dollars, and the prospective parents are responsible for that cost too. Finally, after years of disappointment and months of waiting, the Bensons were thrilled to finally welcome a healthy baby into their family. They were incredibly grateful to their surrogate for helping make their dream of becoming parents a reality. "I think she's an amazing person who is generous beyond measure," says Jessica.
How much does surrogacy cost at Surrogacy for All? Surrogate costs vary greatly. In India, surrogacy can cost as low as $45,000. In Ghana, it is $49,000 and $59,000 in Georgia and Ukraine. The highest price for surrogacy is in the USA, costing $119,000 and above. There are numerous options between these prices. Please note, costs are all-inclusive and cover all medical and delivery procedures, as well as the surrogates and the baby's hospitalization, but exclude some medical complications. No additional expenses are expected except parents' travel expenses and local legal procedures at the parent's country of origin. Costs include surrogate screening, surrogate's compensation, including housing, sperm deposit and freezing, PGS, NGS, one embryo transfer plus medications, implanting frozen embryos, pregnancy monitoring, medical expenses throughout the pregnancy, and delivery, whether natural or otherwise. Begin your journey to having a baby with us and our affiliated physicians at Surrogacy for All. Our job is to listen, to connect the dots between your needs and how we can best help you to have your baby. To make an appointment with one of our counselors or physicians, please call us at 212-661-7673 or send us an email at info@surrogacyforall.com. We look forward to hearing from you.